What happens when you skip a workout? Will I lose all my progress? Should I maybe try and do the workout anyway? Maybe I could do it on my rest day instead? What about doing 2 workouts tomorrow? But I hardly have time for 1 workout. Or maybe I could cut the workout short and do only half of it. But which half then? The simple answer to this problem is just skip it. Just skip that workout, don't worry about it too much, and go back to your normal training routine on the following day. But let me explain you why. To understand how skipping a workout will affect your progress, we have to look at the 3 main training variables, which are intensity, volume, and frequency. Intensity is arguably the most important exercise variable for stimulating muscle growth. And in the context of weightlifting, intensity can mean 2 different things. First of all, it can mean the load or the weight that you lift for a certain exercise. However, intensity can also mean how hard you push yourself, so how close to failure you are training. And for muscle growth, we want intensity to be quite high because you should train close to, if not to failure for most sets. This brings me to the next training variable, which is volume. In the scientific literature, volume is defined as the number of sets times the number of reps times the load that you lift. However, in a bit more practical terms, we can also define volume as the number of sets, so the number of sets you take close to or to failure. And for muscle growth, the scientific literature recommends at least 10 sets per body part per week. There is a tendency that more seems to be better. However, there also seems to be an upper threshold beyond which you will not make additional progress or even hinder your progress. That's why I would recommend between 10 and 20 sets per body part per week, depending on how well you respond to it and what your training focus is. The last training variable is frequency. And frequency basically means how often you train a certain body part per week. So for example, if you do 2 leg days and 2 upper body days a week, your frequency for each body part would be twice a week. And to optimize muscle growth, it doesn't really matter if you train a body part once per week or 3 times per week, as long as you get sufficient volume in. However, higher frequency training usually allows for more weekly volume. So after we've learned about these 3 main training variables, how are they affected by skipping a workout? Let's start with the most obvious one, which is frequency. Let's stick with the 4 times a week upper-lower split. If you skip 1 leg day, then you'll be left with just 1 other leg day, meaning that you basically cut your frequency, so the number of times you train legs, in half. However, assuming that most training splits train each body part at least twice per week, even by skipping 1 workout, you will still be training that body part. And as we've seen before, frequency does not significantly or meaningfully impact muscle hypertrophy when volume is equated. So that means reducing the frequency by skipping a workout doesn't really matter as long as you get enough volume in. So let's have a look what happens to volume then when you skip a workout. When you skip a workout, volume will be reduced as well. Let's say you do 20 sets for your legs over the whole week, and you do 10 sets on your first leg day and 10 sets on your second leg day. So by skipping 1 leg day, you will basically cut your volume for that week in half. However, reducing the volume by 30 to 70% is what elite strength athletes do in the 1 or 2 weeks leading up to a competition in order to increase recovery and maximize their strength performance during that competition. So by temporarily dropping the volume, your body has the chance to recover a bit more. So if anything, you'll only be stronger during your next workout session. And muscle mass will not be affected either. In a study by Bickel and colleagues, participants trained for 16 weeks, after which they put on quite a bit of muscle mass. Then they dropped the volume to 1/3 or 1/9 of what they originally did. And over an 8-month period, they were able to maintain their muscle mass. So that means for maintaining muscle mass, you need much less volume than to build it. And since the participants in that study maintained their muscle mass over an 8-month period, nothing will happen if you skip a single workout once in a while. However, there's one point that you need to be aware of, which brings me to the last training variable, intensity. In all the studies I mentioned before, volume was drastically reduced, but they kept the intensity the same. Meaning that when you do train, you should still use the same weights and train just as close to failure as you normally would. But if we take all this together, if you skip a workout, you don't need to make up for it. As long as you're pushing yourself hard enough during the remaining workouts of that week, you will not lose your progress. However, while skipping a workout once in a while will not hurt your strength or muscle gains, if it happens on a regular basis, then you should ask yourself why. And I found myself in that exact situation at the beginning of this year. Because previously I ran a 4-day-a-week upper-lower split, but I've always wanted to do a push-pull leg split 6 times a week. And I thought the new year would be a good time to start this new training program. However, most weeks I only worked out 5 times per week and I rarely got the 6th workout in. Why? Because I was really busy studying for my final exams in virology and simply didn't have enough time to make it to the gym 6 times a week. So I adjusted my training to 5 times per week, which then worked out just fine. And if this sounds familiar to you, then ask yourself why you're regularly skipping workouts. Is it because you don't like a particular workout in your routine? Or is it maybe because you simply don't have time at the moment to train that often? And once you figure that out, you can make the necessary adjustments. Because a workout routine might look ideal on paper, but if you can't stick with it over the long term, then it's not optimal for you. You have to find a training routine that is sustainable for you and that you can remain consistent with. However, I just wanted to reiterate that if you occasionally skip a workout, then nothing will happen and you'll be just fine. Because sometimes life just gets in the way. Maybe you have a lot to do for work, maybe you have to study for a very important exam, maybe you have a family dinner that you want to go to, or maybe your mental health is very bad in that week. And these things are way more important to attend to than to just stubbornly trying and get all your workouts in that week. Because I can promise you one thing. Looking back, you will never regret missing that one single workout, but you will regret missing that family dinner or not being well prepared for an exam. And fitness is there to add to your life, not take away from it. So when it hinders your life in other aspects, like your social health, your mental health, or your work or school performance, then fitness has to take a step back. So don't stress about it too much. If you have to skip a workout because of what life throws at you, then just skip it and go on with your normal training routine the next day. And if anything, skipping a workout will make you less stressed and you'll only be stronger coming back. But that was it for today's video. If you enjoyed it or learned something, then please give me a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know what happens when you quit exercising for good, then watch this video next. Otherwise, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!